Honestly, I feel like we need to talk about why the Inquisitors work as villains, and why some work so much better than others. Because the Empire created this entire organization of fallen Jedi hunters. Darkside users with spinning lightsabers and cool helmets and tragic backstories. On paper, every single one should be terrifying. Every single one should haunt your nightmares. But they don't. Some Inquisitors stick with you for years. Others? You forget their names before the credits roll. And the comparison between Trilla Suduri and Dagan Gera reveals exactly why. My framework is simple. An Inquisitor works as a villain when they deliver two things simultaneously. A Sith-like experience, meaning personal threat, dark side presence, the feeling that you're facing something genuinely dangerous, and enforcement of Imperial will. They need to serve the Empire's goals while also feeling like a personal nemesis. Get both right, and you have Trilla Suduri. Get neither right, and you have Dagan Gera. Quick sidebar before we dive deep. The Grand Inquisitor, the big boss of the whole operation, reportedly turned to the dark side because he couldn't get a library card. I'm barely exaggerating. The story goes he was a Jedi Temple Guard who had access to the archives but wanted to read the restricted texts. That's it. That's the origin story. I haven't been able to verify all the details on this one, but if it's true, it's incredible. Anyway, let's talk about why Dagan Gera fails. Not as a character concept, not as a boss fight, but as a villain who's supposed to carry an entire game the way Trilla carried Fallen Order. To understand Dagan's failure, you need to understand where he came from. And that means going back centuries before the Empire even existed. Centuries before Order 66. Centuries before Palpatine even became Chancellor. The High Republic era was the Jedi Order at its absolute peak. This wasn't the prequel-era Jedi, already complacent and blind to the Sith manipulation happening under their noses. This was an order that commanded genuine respect across the galaxy. The Galactic Republic thrived under their protection. Peace and justice weren't aspirational concepts, they were reality. The Jedi were guardians at the height of their power, expanding into the Outer Rim, building temples, training generations of Force users without fear of persecution. Contrast that with the Imperial-era Inquisitors, gray and black armor, helmets concealing whatever humanity remained, serving a regime built on fear rather than trust. The gap between those two eras isn't just temporal, it's philosophical. Dagan Gera was a Jedi of the Golden Age, and that's the first problem with his character. See, Dagan discovered something remarkable during an uncharted flight through a deadly nebula called the Kobo Abyss. This wasn't some casual scouting mission. The Kobo Abyss was lethal to most ships, filled with radiation and navigational hazards that destroyed anyone foolish enough to attempt passage. But Dagan made it through. On the other side, hidden from the rest of the galaxy by natural barriers that had protected it for millennia, he found a planet. Terrestrial. Breathable atmosphere. Varied terrain. The radiant expanse. Haven's Edge. Verdant gardens. Multiple biomes supporting life. And most importantly, a powerful connection to the Force that permeated everything on the surface. He named it Tanalorr. Located in the Verada sector within the Kobo system, grid square H19. The navigational data from his voyage through the Abyss was used to craft specialized devices called Abyss compasses, the only way to safely navigate a path through the nebula to reach this hidden world. Without a compass, you died in the radiation. With one, you found paradise. Dagan didn't just find a planet. He found his purpose, his obsession, the thing he would eventually murder for. He wanted to build a Jedi Temple on Tanalorr, train initiates there, position it as a bastion of the Jedi's light on the Outer Rim frontier, a strategic stronghold from which the Order could expand their influence and repel threats to the galactic frontier. The Jedi Council took this seriously enough to send Master Oppo Rancisis to assess whether the planet was worth being used by the Order. Fellow Jedi Master Santari Khri worked alongside Dagan on this vision. She was uncertain whether Gera had even chosen a good name for the planet, a small detail that suggests friction from early on. Maybe she saw something in him others missed, the arrogance, the impatience, the extreme pride that would later destroy him. The Gendai warrior Ravis also visited Tanalorr during this period, establishing a connection with Dagan that would persist for centuries. Now, here's what we know about Dagan Gera's personality. He was arrogant. He admitted openly that he was impatient. Centauri Kree described him as lacking in humility. He possessed an extreme amount of pride, which drove him to betray the Jedi Order when they forsook Tanalorr. He had great confidence in his abilities and often disdained the efforts of his opponents. These aren't the traits of someone who falls to the dark side through tragedy. These are the traits of someone waiting for an excuse. The excuse came during Master Oppo Rancisis' assessment visit. Marauders called the Nihil entered the Kobo system and launched an assault on Tanalorr itself. The Nihil's attack on Tanalorr was devastating. The Jedi put up a defense. Dagan fought alongside his fellow knights to protect the planet he'd discovered, the temple he'd dreamed of building, the legacy he'd claimed as his own. But the Jedi Council made a decision. They ordered the abandonment of Tanalorr. This was tactical. The Nihil attack, besides being a blow to the morale of the Jedi Order, was useful for the Marauders in hindering the Jedi advance in combat against them. The Council looked at the strategic situation and concluded that Tanalorr couldn't be held. Not worth the resources, not worth the lives. The Order had responsibilities across the entire galaxy. They couldn't commit everything to defend one planet, no matter how force-strong, no matter how strategically valuable in theory. A Jedi who had internalized the Order's teachings about attachment and loss would have accepted this. Grieved, perhaps. Disagreed, certainly, but accepted. Dagan Gera did not accept. He had tied his entire identity to Tanalorr. The planet wasn't just a discovery, it was him, his purpose, his proof of worth. And when the Council chose to let it go, something broke inside him. Or maybe something that was always broken finally showed itself. What happened next can't be described as a fall. It was a massacre. In his rage, Dagan Gera slaughtered several Jedi Knights, his own people, fellow guardians of peace and justice who had fought beside him, defending Tanalorr hours earlier. He killed them because the Council made a tactical decision he disagreed with. Not because they betrayed him. Not because they tortured him. Not because they broke some sacred trust. Because they made a strategic choice he didn't like. When Dagan attempted reconciliation with Centauri Kree, when he tried to reach back toward what remained of his former self, his anger overpowered him again. He reached for an abyss compass, the navigational device that would let him return to Tanalorr despite the Council's orders. Kree was forced to sever his arm to stop him. That wound landed him in a Bacta tank, and there he stayed, in stasis, for centuries. Centuries while the High Republic era ended, while the Galactic Republic transformed and corrupted, while the Clone Wars raged, while Palpatine executed Order 66, and the clone troopers slaughtered their Jedi commanders, while the Galactic Empire rose on the ashes of democracy, while the Inquisitors hunted survivors across the galaxy. Dagan Gera slept through all of it. His fall to the dark side happened in a completely different historical era. His trauma, such as it was, predated the Empire by generations. He had no connection to Palpatine's regime, no investment in Imperial ideology, no understanding of what the galaxy had become. And then, in 9BBY, Cal Kestis accidentally woke him up. Here's where I want to be fair to the argument that Dagan works as a villain. There's something interesting about an ancient evil awakening in a different time. There's potential in a Jedi from the Golden Age confronting what happened to his order. There's dramatic irony in Dagan seeking a hidden planet as a refuge when the entire Jedi Order is already destroyed. He doesn't need to prove the Council wrong because the Council is gone. But Jedi Survivor doesn't explore any of that. Not really. When Dagan awakens, he doesn't grapple with what happened to the Jedi. He doesn't process the Empire's existence or the destruction of everything he once knew. He returns with a singular desire: finish his quest and return to Tanalorr, thereby proving that the Order was wrong in letting go of it. Proving wrong an order that no longer exists. Fighting for a planet that has no strategic value to anyone alive. seeking revenge against a council that died centuries before Cal was born. The motivation is weak. It relies on you not thinking too hard about it. If Dagan felt betrayed by the Jedi Council of the High Republic and was injured in an altercation with them, having him immediately fall to dark side rage upon awakening is sloppy storytelling. There's no chance for Cal to develop a meaningful relationship with Dagan. No escalation. No psychological warfare. No build. And look at his boss fight design. Dagan fights with a single-bladed lightsaber augmented by a force projection of his severed arm. He literally manifests a phantom limb through dark side power to compensate for what Centauri Kree took from him. That's visually interesting. His use of force illusions during combat represents the only documented combat mechanic that makes him stand out. Compare that to Trilla. Her encounters have the most attack patterns among Fallen Order's antagonists. Red rush attacks, a red shockwave move demanding distance, varied parry timings that force you to learn her specific rhythm rather than applying a universal counter, a droid encounter adding chaos mid-fight. Her final confrontation at the Fortress Inquisitorius is explicitly described as the toughest one yet. Trilla teaches you something with every death. Dagan just hits hard. Now let's apply the framework test. Does Dagan Gera enforce Imperial will? No. He has absolutely no connection to the Empire whatsoever. He's a rogue High Republic Jedi who predates the Imperial era by generations. The Empire's goals are irrelevant to him. The inquisitorial power structure is meaningless. He's not hunting Jedi for the Empire. He's pursuing a personal obsession that serves no one but himself. Cal could be anyone. The fight could be happening in any era. Does he provide a genuine Sith-like experience? Debatable. He has a lightsaber. He uses the dark side. He's angry. But that's aesthetic. The Sith-like experience isn't just visuals. It's the feeling that you're facing something that understands you, threatens you personally, represents a dark mirror of what you could become. Dagan can't do that because he has no relationship with Cal. He woke up and started fighting. That's it. Let me tell you Trilla's story, and you'll see the difference immediately. Trilla Suduri began her life as a force-sensitive human female during the final years of the Galactic Republic. A tall, slender woman with light brown skin, blue-green eyes, and sleek black hair. Around 22 BBY, during the Clone Wars, Jedi Knight Cere Junda took her as a Padawan. They served alongside clone troopers for several years throughout the conflict. This master-apprentice bond would become the defining relationship of Trilla's existence, the source of her greatest betrayal and her final redemption. During her formative years, Trilla displayed kindness and compassion. She cared deeply for her master. She demonstrated protective instincts toward the Jedi younglings placed under her care. Cere rated her apprentice highly enough to entrust Trilla with significant responsibilities for protecting Force-sensitive children. Order 66 happened in 19 BBY. Supreme Chancellor Sheev Palpatine activated the behavioral modification biochips implanted in the Republic's clone troopers, marking the Jedi as traitors. The clones turned on their commanders across the galaxy. Most Jedi died within hours. Trilla and Cere survived. They escaped together. They evacuated a group of younglings during the immediate aftermath. Even in chaos and terror, their priorities remained aligned with protection of innocent, Force-sensitive children. The hiding place where they'd concealed themselves was discovered by an Imperial patrol. Both master and apprentice were captured and taken to what was likely the Fortress Inquisitorius on the moon Nur, a facility specifically designed for the systematic psychological and physical destruction of captured Force users. Under the extremity of Imperial interrogation methods, Cere Junda reached her breaking point. She revealed the location of Trilla and the younglings to her captors. This is the psychological foundation upon which Trilla's entire villainy would be constructed. She did not betray Cere. Cere, in a moment of extremis, betrayed her. Following Cere's revelation, Imperial forces located and captured Trilla, along with at least some of the younglings they had attempted to protect. Trilla was subjected to excruciating torture, interrogation designed not merely to extract information, but to fundamentally break her attachment to the Jedi Order's principles and convert her to the dark side. The transformation combined physical torture with exploitation of psychological trauma. Trilla blamed Cere for her fall. She viewed her master's revelation as a deliberate betrayal rather than an involuntary act committed under duress. This blame, combined with sustained torture, became the emotional foundation for her commitment to the Empire and her intense hatred of the Jedi. After her fall, dark veiny circles appeared on the skin around her eyes, a permanent physiological manifestation of her connection to the dark side. The person wearing the gray and black armor of an Inquisitor was fundamentally different from the compassionate Padawan who had trained to protect younglings. She trained directly under Darth Vader and emerged as the Second Sister, one of the organization's senior and capable operatives. Her intellectual capabilities survived and enhanced during transformation. She developed keen intellect and analytical mind. Her strongest asset became her ability to anticipate the behavior of her prey. She developed expert lightsaber combat skills. She developed sociopathic tendencies and became able to patiently manipulate almost any adversary into revealing their weaknesses and fears. Her documented operations include participation in a mission to hunt Jedi Master Eth Koth, demonstrating her status within the inquisitorial hierarchy. That mission culminated in Koth's death, though two of Trilla's comrade Inquisitors, the 13th Sister and Tualan Yaluna, were executed by Vader himself for undefined transgressions. A visceral reminder of the fatal consequences of failure. But here's what separates her from Dagan. She never stopped being Cere's student. Her hatred was personal, specific, directed at one person. Not abstract rage at an institution that wronged her. Intimate fury at someone she trusted who gave her up. During her hunt for Cal Kestis, Trilla infiltrated his communications and taunted him repeatedly. She told him about his weakness, his isolation. Most critically, about Cere Junda's unreliability. She boasted that there was no technique Cere Junda had at her disposal that she hadn't perfected. Every conversation was designed to create wedges between Cal and Cere, to isolate him from his allies. That's psychological warfare from someone who knows exactly how trust can be weaponized. Because it was weaponized against her. On Braca in 14 BBY, Trilla arrived with the 9th Sister, a Force-sensitive Dawitan formerly known as Masana Tide, and a squad of purge troopers trained specifically to hunt Force users. She interrogated Scrapper Guild members, threatened execution for anyone harboring the Jedi. When Guild member Prouf, an Abednedo, openly protested Imperial oppression, she activated her double-bladed lightsaber and stabbed him through the heart. That killing forced Cal to reveal himself when he attacked her in rage. She used his compassion against him, just like the Empire used Cere's love for her Padawan against both of them. Players remember Trilla years later because they learned her. Every death taught something. Every victory felt earned. And her ending lands because everything that came before earned it. Cal defeats Trilla, hits her shoulder. She drops her lightsaber, goes to her knees. Cere arrives and approaches her former Padawan, wanting to redeem her. Trilla insists it's too late. Cere refuses to accept that. She senses good remaining and apologizes for the pain she caused. For a moment, Trilla expresses how much hate she's carried all these years. Cal offers redemption directly. I saw what you've been through. You've experienced great suffering. It's not too late to let it go. Let go. Then Trilla senses something. Her current master, Darth Vader. What happens next is devastating. Despite her intimidating posture throughout the game, Trilla shows immense fear. She's visibly shaking when Vader appears behind her. The hierarchy of cruelty she's been part of is turning against her. You have failed me, Inquisitor. Her specific failure? Inability to kill Cal Kestis and Cere Junda despite multiple encounters. Unable to break free from Vader's force grip, Trilla turns back to the light in her final moments. Her last words to Cere and Cal: avenge us. Not avenge me. Us. The Jedi who fell. The Padawans who were tortured. The younglings she tried to protect. Now here's where I want to raise a question I've seen discussed in the community but can't fully verify from the sources I've reviewed. The question involves Vader's consistency in executing failed Inquisitors. Trilla gets killed for failing to eliminate Cal Kestis and Cere Junda. Cal had been hiding for years, he's resourceful, and Trilla actually came closer to catching him than anyone else. Her failure was losing one fight after multiple successful encounters where she had Cal on the defensive. I've heard discussions about whether Vader treats other Inquisitors' failures differently, but I don't have enough verified information to make a definitive comparison. What I can say is that Trilla's execution raises questions about Vader's standards. She showed genuine remorse and was on the verge of redemption when he killed her, and if anything, that turn back toward the light would make Vader more likely to destroy her. He despises weakness. If you've got better sourced information on how Vader handles other Inquisitors' failures, I want to hear it. That's exactly the kind of discussion that belongs in the comments. So here's my conclusion, and here's where I invite you to argue with me. Dagan Gera fails as a villain because he does neither of the things that make Inquisitors work. He doesn't enforce Imperial will, he has no connection to the Empire whatsoever. He doesn't provide a genuine Sith-like experience. He has no personal relationship with Cal that makes their conflict meaningful. His motivation is weak. A planet got abandoned centuries ago, so he murdered his fellow Jedi and wants revenge on an order that doesn't exist anymore. He woke up and started fighting. That's not an arc. That's just violence. Trilla Suduri is the opposite. She delivers both a Sith-like experience and enforces Imperial will. She's a personal threat to Cal through her connection to Cere. She's mechanically memorable through varied boss fight design. She represents the Empire's cruelty while having individual psychological depth. And her redemption arc earns its emotional payoff because we understand exactly what was done to her and why she became what she became. That's the framework for judging every Inquisitor. Does this villain deliver the Sith-like experience while enforcing Imperial goals? Do they have personal stakes with the heroes that make encounters feel meaningful? Are we shown their fall or just told about it? By this standard, Trilla is the peak of what an Inquisitor can be. She's the gold standard that every other Inquisitor should be measured against. Dagan Gera is a cautionary tale about what happens when you abandon both criteria. He's proof that a tragic backstory and a lightsaber aren't enough. You need the connection, the personal stakes, the relationship that makes every encounter feel like it matters. But maybe I'm wrong about Dagan. Maybe his High Republic backstory adds depth I'm not seeing. Maybe his disconnection from the Empire is actually a feature rather than a bug, a commentary on how obsession persists across centuries, untouched by political realities of any given era. Maybe the fact that he represents pre-Imperial Jedi corruption is interesting precisely because it predates Palpatine's influence entirely. If you think so, I want to hear your case. And if you've got thoughts on Vader's treatment of failed Inquisitors, those conversations belong in the comments too. Subscribe for more stories like this.